artificial, system online.
Imagine this. You've invested years of your life, probably 6 figures in tuition money, and just this immense amount of intellectual energy to get a prestigious career. You know, you passed the CPA exam, you got your JD, maybe you finished that master's in data science, you did exactly what everyone told you to do to guarantee a secure future. And now generative AI can do, what, 70% of the daily work you were trained for? And it can do it in seconds.
That right there, that is the new calculus of professional risk. Welcome to Surviving AI with Carlo Thompson. And we need to be really clear. This isn't some theoretical, fear-mongering about robots taking all the jobs sometime next decade. This is a practical survival guide for the job market right now. And everything we say is backed by current corporate data and academic studies.
I'm your host, and today we're doing a deep dive into what we've started calling the knowledge worker apocalypse. Ooh, we have to do this because the credentials that you work so hard for, that protective wall of advanced education, it's dissolving, and it's dissolving much faster than you might think. This is episode 4. Data scientists, lawyers, and accountants, why knowledge workers are screwed.
Our mission today is laser-focused. We want to move beyond the general anxiety and really analyze how AI is reshaping 3 specific key professions: data science, law, and accounting. And we picked these 3 for a reason. They each represent different stages and different types of automation risk, but they all share that one common thread. They require a massive intellectual and financial investment to even get in the door. We have to identify the vulnerable tasks and, more importantly, define the survival pivots for each one.
Okay, so before we get into those case studies, let's just establish the urgency here. We need to get past the macro headlines and look at the brutal corporate action that's already started. The stuff hitting budget lines and headcounts right now.
Precisely. And let's start with a really alarming statistic. Right now, 40% of employers expect to reduce their workforce. And that's specifically in areas where AI can automate tasks.
40%. Wow. So that's not a future plan, that's a current expectation.
It's a current expectation being factored into budgets for 2025 and 2026. Business leaders they're past the exploration phase. They're deploying AI for one reason: efficiency. And that means reducing payroll.
And efficiency in this context is really just a corporate way of saying fewer people doing more work.
Absolutely. And this ties directly into what we're seeing as an entry-level collapse, the foundation of that whole knowledge worker pyramid. The entry-level analysts, the junior associates, the bookkeepers, they're incredibly vulnerable. While the big numbers vary, we're looking at nearly 50 million U.S. jobs at risk in just the next few years. But you can see the effect right now, especially for new graduates.
And those numbers are just devastating for anyone coming out of school right now.
They are. I mean, entry-level white-collar hiring is down a staggering 25% compared to just 1 year ago.
25% in 1 year?
In 1 year. Just think about the message that sends to a graduating class. They just spent 4 years, racked up massive debt for a traditional on-ramp to a career that is suddenly operating at 75% capacity. But 100% of the applicants are still lined up waiting to get on.
And you can see this collapse most clearly in professional services, right? That's always been the place that absorbs all these highly credentialed grads.
Correct. Professional services, dull consulting, legal, accounting, job openings are at their lowest point since 2013. That's a 20% year-over-year drop. And look at what that means in practice. Law firms are just quietly not replacing associates who leave. They're opting instead to have the remaining team use these new legal AI platforms. Consulting firms are realizing they can replace 5 junior analysts whose main job was just pulling data and making slides with 1 senior consultant who's equipped with sophisticated AI.
So the whole pyramid is collapsing from the bottom up, the very place where training and, leverage used to happen.
It's not just shaking, it's collapsing. That sets the stage perfectly.
It really does. Our goal in this deep dive is to give you the tools to understand that nuance, that difference between being safe and being obsolete. So let's dive into section 1, the new calculus of risk and the knowledge worker trap.
Okay, the first thing we really need to get our heads around is just the scale of this disruption, particularly in advanced economies, so the US and Western Europe. AI is impacting nearly 60% of jobs in these economies.
60%. And how does that compare to other places?
It's a huge difference. In lower-income countries, that exposure rate is closer to 26%.
That's an incredible disparity. It completely flips the script on what we think of as economic anxiety. It absolutely does. I mean, historically, wealth and advanced education, they were a shield, right? Because the complex, information-heavy tasks that higher earners did were just seen as too difficult for machines. Generative AI changed that equation, fundamentally. Now, the more your work relies on manipulating, analyzing, and generating complex information, which is the very definition of a knowledge worker, the higher your exposure risk.
So it's not about physical labor anymore, it's about cognitive labor.
Exactly. And the projections just solidify this. By 2030, 30% of current U.S. jobs could be fully automated. And 60%, a huge majority, will see their tasks significantly modified by AI. This isn't about replacing whole jobs overnight, it's about replacing chunks of tasks. Studies are showing that 19% of U.S. workers, so that's nearly 1 in 5, could see more than half of their specific daily tasks impacted by large language models like GPT-4.
And this brings us to that profound irony you mentioned earlier. The high earners are the ones who are disproportionately worried. Paradoxically, yes. The data shows the highest earners are the most concerned about AI taking their jobs. They get it. They understand that their value proposition, which was always defined by fast, accurate information processing, analysis, and drafting, is now directly competing with an incredibly fast and often much cheaper algorithm. They earned their high income by performing cognitive complexity, and AI is now achieving that same complexity at scale.
So if that complex cognitive work is being commoditized, the career ladder itself is in really serious trouble, especially with that drop in professional services jobs we talked about. We have to talk about real displacement numbers, not just expected cuts.
The displacement is tangible. I mean, it's happening. AI-related job cuts crossed 50,000 in the U.S. in 2025 alone. And you have the major players explicitly saying AI efficiency is the reason for a smaller headcount. Microsoft, Amazon, Google. Combined, they've reduced a total of 49,000 roles since 2023. And efficiency improvements due to AI were cited as a core factor. This isn't just, a general economic slowdown. This is a strategic workforce restructuring based on new technology.
Yeah, when you see a company like Salesforce cut thousands of customer support jobs right after they implement an agentic AI system, that's a direct line. You can see the cause and effect. And that leads us right to this fundamental problem for new professionals, the knowledge worker trap.
The trap is this dangerous, outdated advice that we're all still being given. Go to the best school, get the most prestigious degree, and you'll be set for life.
Right.
The whole system is designed to push ambitious students into what we call the credential paradox.
Okay, walk us through that paradox. It sounds like the advice that got everyone into student debt is now completely failing them.
It is failing them because AI is transforming roles across all levels, but especially the knowledge workers with advanced education. The paradox is this. The market for basic entry-level white-collar work is evaporating because it's so easy to automate. But when you look at the skills required for the new jobs AI is creating, the credential requirements are actually going up.
How far up are we talking?
Significantly. 77% of new AI-related jobs require a master's degree, and 18% require doctoral degrees.
Wow.
So the system demands higher and higher credentials for these very senior or specialized roles, while it's simultaneously eliminating the training grounds, those junior roles, that allowed people to get the experience to justify that advanced degree in the first place. People are investing more time and more money for a ticket to a theater where all the cheap seats have been ripped out.
So the entire educational establishment is still selling an old map, but the territories has completely changed. If those traditional credentials aren't protection anymore, what's the new value proposition? What kind of adaptability do people need?
Well, adaptability isn't just a soft skill anymore. It's an urgent economic necessity. PwC's global analysis shows that the skills needed for AI-exposed jobs are changing 66% faster than for other jobs.
66% faster.
And to put that in context, that's more than 2.5 times faster than the rate we saw just last year. If you aren't prioritizing continuous learning, you are falling behind at a geometric rate.
That sounds like a constant sprint. But what's the reward? Why bother staying on the bleeding edge?
The reward is immense, and it's creating this stark economic bifurcation. Workers with high-demand AI skills, and that can be anything from advanced prompt engineering all the way up to MLOps and AI governance, they now command a 56% wage premium. That's up from 25% just last year.
56%. That means AI is creating huge economic winners right now.
It is. Demand for just general AI fluency, meaning you just understand the capabilities, the limits, how to use the tools in your workflow, that has jumped nearly sevenfold in 2 years. This is the binary nature of the market we're in now. You're either leveraging AI to massively increase your output and your value and securing that 56% premium, or you're losing work to the algorithms and positioning yourself for obsolescence. That middle ground, where just being competent was enough to be stable, is disappearing.
Okay, let's take these macro trends and apply them specifically to the people who literally write the code. Let's transition to Section 2. Case Study 1, Data Scientists, the automated architects.
This is maybe the most compelling irony in this entire landscape. Data scientists are the people who build AI systems. Yet, a Microsoft 2025 study puts them squarely on the list of the 40 most vulnerable jobs to AI automation. They built the machine that is now coming for their labor.
That just seems counterintuitive. You'd think knowing how the system works would protect you. Why doesn't it?
That knowledge gives you strategic insight, for sure, but it doesn't give you immunity from what we call the execution trap. Data scientists have a high AI applicability score. TIAA data shows up to 66% exposure, and other studies put it at 35 to 50% of their daily work being at immediate risk. Their vulnerability is that so much of their work is systematic and repeatable, which is just perfect for automation.
But wait a minute, I keep seeing these projections from the Bureau of Labor Statistics saying there's going to be 36% growth for data science jobs through 2033. How can a job be highly vulnerable and also projected for massive growth?
No, this is the critical dissonance, and it's so important to understand this. The market absolutely needs more data science output, more models, more analysis, more insights driving business decisions. That's the 36% growth in the demand for the work. But the market needs dramatically fewer people to execute that work, thanks to all these efficiency gains from AI.
So the output is needed, but the worker, maybe not so much. Can you give us a practical example? How would a team's headcount actually change?
Certainly. So imagine a typical data science team back in 2020, maybe 10 people. You have 5 junior analysts doing data cleaning and prep, 3 mid-level people building models, and 2 senior strategists. By 2025, that same team, it shrinks to maybe 4 people, 1 principal, 2 seniors, 1 mid-level. And those 4 people, using AI tools, can maintain or even increase the output of the original 10. So the BLS projection is right, the workload is growing, but the headcount is shrinking dramatically because AI is doing all the grunt work.
That makes the execution trap crystal clear. Let's get really granular. What specific tasks, the ones data scientists spend most of their time on, are being eliminated right now?
The single biggest task being eliminated is data cleaning and pre-processing. Data scientists used to complain that 80% of their day was spent on this stuff.
80%? Really?
Yeah. Finding missing values, normalizing data sets, handling outliers, merging different sources. It was necessary, but it was monotonous grunt work. That 80% is gone.
And how is AI eliminating it so effectively?
Through these really sophisticated specialized platforms. Tools like AutoSclarn and H2O AutoML, they don't just run simple scripts. They use massive cloud resources to automatically run hundreds of cleaning routines in parallel. They can test different ways to handle missing data faster and more consistently than any human analyst ever could. And you're seeing GPT-4 and its successors being built right into notebooks to suggest and execute advanced data transformations with just simple text prompts. So that entry-level job of sitting there and wrangling data, it's basically obsolete. The machine is just dramatically better at it.
And what about beyond cleaning? What about the core job of actually building a model?
Basic model building and standard analysis, that's next on the list. AutoML platforms can handle testing dozens of different model types, random forests, gradient boosting. It does the hyperparameter tuning, the cross-validation, the performance comparison instantly. And routine things like time series forecasting or a simple A/B test analysis, that's all becoming automated point-and-click stuff inside enterprise software. If your value is just writing boilerplate Python code for a standard machine learning problem, well, AI can write that code faster and better.
So if execution is being automated, the data scientist has to stop being a coder and start being a strategist. What's the survival pivot?
They have to move from execution to strategy and systems thinking. And we've identified 4 high-value areas that are protected. The first one is defining business problems. And AI is great at solving a problem you give it, but it's completely incapable of defining the right business problem to solve in the first place. The human value is in translating a vague executive need, like we need better customer engagement, into a solvable analytical question. Something like, we need to optimize our churn prediction model by integrating real-time social sentiment data. That requires deep business knowledge.
That's a completely different job. That's a consultant, not just a technician.
Absolutely. The second pivot is storytelling and presentation. A perfect model with 99% accuracy is totally useless if the C-suite can't understand the results or how to act on the insight. Data scientists have to become storytellers. They have to synthesize these complex outputs into clear, persuasive narratives that actually drive business strategy. And that relies on communication, on leadership, on social influence skills that AI is just terrible at.
So again, it's the soft skills, the ability to read a room and communicate value.
That's right. The third area is AI systems engineering. This means you stop building one-off models and you start focusing on the integrity and quality of complex systems. This is what people call MLOps, machine learning operations. It's about making sure models behave correctly in the real world, managing the architecture of data pipelines, overseeing how multiple AI agents work together. It's less about the algorithm and more about the resilient, scalable infrastructure it lives on.
So focusing on the architecture to make sure the system doesn't generate junk in, junk out, or, crash the company website.
Precisely. And the fourth high-value area is AI ethics and bias detection. This is specialized high-liability work. Companies are increasingly exposed to legal and PR disasters when their AI systems perpetuate or amplify historical bias, especially in things like hiring or lending. Preventing that fallout requires a specialized human skill set that understands both the tech and the societal context.
Let's nail down the timeline for this. This is the critical takeaway for any data scientists listening.
The timeline is aggressive. Entry-level data science positions, the pure analyst roles focused on execution, they're disappearing right now. New graduates need to enter the workforce already able to think at a mid-level strategic capacity. Mid-level positions are going to see significant pressure from 2025 to 2027. People in those roles, they have to adopt AI tools just to maintain or double their output. That's going to lead to severe role consolidation. Fewer people on the team. Senior positions, they remain relatively safe through 2030, but only if that senior role evolves into a pure strategic advisor and architect.
The message is clear. Stop executing the repeatable tasks and start defining, strategizing, and engineering the systems that do the executing.
Yes, the survival mechanism. Okay, now let's shift gears. Section 3, lawyers. The bifurcated future.
Lawyers seem different. They have that narrow regulatory shield. You have to be licensed to practice law. Doesn't that protect them?
It provides a necessary but insufficient layer of protection. That shield, it only protects the final licensed act, providing advice, signing a document, represent a client in court. It does not protect the 30 to 50% of legal tasks that make up the vast majority of their daily work. And you see the collateral damage in the support roles first. Legal secretaries, administrative assistants, they face an 88% exposure to automation. Paralegals and legal assistants face 58% exposure. And this automation is just wiping out the lower ranks, which has these profound consequences for how the next generation of lawyers is even trained.
You mentioned that it's eliminating the training mechanism. That sounds like a deep structural threat to the whole profession.
It is. The automation risk is stratified by seniority, and it's creating this bifurcated future. Think about the classic first-year associate experience at a big firm. Their bread and butter, their trial by fire was legal research. They'd get assigned a memo, research all relevant case law on the application of statute X in jurisdiction Y. That was a 20-hour minimum task that taught them how to think like a lawyer.
And now those 20 hours are compressed into minutes.
Precisely. AI tools like Casetext Co-Counsel, which was just bought by Thomson Reuters, and tools like Harvey AI, which is being used inside massive law firms. They can now digest thousands of documents and generate first drafts, summaries, and relevant arguments in minutes. They don't just find cases, they synthesize the legal arguments. That intellectual grind that used to train new lawyers is gone.
So the mechanism for learning is being outsourced to an algorithm. What about the really high-volume work, like document review?
Oh, that's already highly automated. Document review. That tedious task of sifting through tens of thousands of emails or contracts for litigation or a merger, that was once a huge source of billable hours for junior staff. Now, tools like Spellbook and Ironclad are automating contract drafting, compliance checks, and document review at scale. They're taking over all the repetitive rule-based work.
And what about the paralegal role, the people who are really the organizational backbone of a law office?
Paralegal work faces an estimated 80% automation risk by 2026. Tasks like calendar management, e-filing, managing deadlines, basic case summaries, that's all ripe for immediate automation by these multi-step AI agents. These agents can manage workflows and hand off information with an accuracy and speed that's just impossible for a human to match.
So if AI can draft the memo, find the case law, and manage the case files, what's left that's fundamentally human for the lawyer? Where is the protected core?
The protected core relies entirely on judgment and social intelligence. First, courtroom advocacy. AI can write a brilliant closing argument, but it cannot deliver it. Reading the room, watching the judge's nonverbal cues, adjusting your argument mid-sentence based on how the jury is reacting, that requires genuine human intelligence and charisma.
The human performance element is still paramount in an adversarial system.
Absolutely. Second, high-stakes negotiation. Negotiation is about reading motivations, understanding hidden incentives, making these complex judgment calls about when to push and when to back off. It's human psychology, not just data analysis. An AI can tell you the ideal financial outcome, but it can't handle the messy, unpredictable human interaction that gets you to that final signature. And third, and this is the highest value protection of all, client counseling and relationship management. When a corporate client is facing an existential risk or planning a billion-dollar merger, they want holistic, trusted advice on risk from a human being. The lawyer moves from being a document factory that bills by the hour to a strategic, trusted business advisor. The regulatory shield protects the signature, but human trust protects the relationship.
This sounds like the entire career ladder for lawyers is changing shape, that the middle is just thinning out dramatically.
It is. The junior associates, 0 to 3 years experience, they are at high risk. Their training mechanism is gone, which forces them to become experts far faster. Large firms are already cutting first-year associate hiring by 20 to 30%. And the few who do get hired are expected to use AI to do the work of 3 people right out of the gate. And then you have the senior partners who are low risk. Their value is safe because they manage the client relationships, they bring in the business, the rainmaking, and they provide that strategic judgment. The pressure point is the mid-level associates, 4 to 7 years in, they are getting squeezed. They're squeezed from below because the junior ranks they used to leverage are shrinking, and they're squeezed from above by rising partnership expectations.
The clear survival path is to skip that document review mentality entirely and just become an essential strategic advisor as early in your career as possible.
That's the only path forward.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to our last case study, Section 4, Accountants, the credential trap.
Accountants rely on the CPA license. It's probably the most recognizable and stringent credential in the white-collar world. It takes years of school, grueling exams, specific work experience. Why are you arguing that this incredibly complex credential provides almost no protection?
Because the credential gives you permission to sign a document. But AI does 70% of the work before that signature is ever applied. The CPA is a regulatory moat, but it's just too narrow to protect the actual labor. The risk level is medium-high, with 50 to 70% of routine tasks facing automation. And this is a massive job category. The exposure is widespread. Bookkeeping, accounting, auditing clerks, the foundation of the whole profession, they have 100% of their tasks statistically more likely to be automated than just augmented.
So let's detail that. The elimination of compliance work. What specific tasks are being automated that leads to this 70 to 95% automation risk for entry-level accountants by 2027?
It starts with the absolute basics. Data entry and bookkeeping are essentially gone. They're being automated by AI features that are now just embedded in standard software like QuickBooks and Xero. OCR technology, paired with LLMs, can now automatically pull data from invoices, receipts, bank statements. It populates the ledgers with no human intervention.
The need for a human to type in numbers is just vanishing.
Absolutely. Then you have reconciliations. These are highly pattern-based tasks. AI is supremely good at this. It automates the process of matching transaction records, and it only flags the genuine anomalies for a human to review. And finally, simple tax preparation. AI-powered tools already handle millions of straightforward returns. The CPA is only needed for the complex, unusual cases.
This means the foundation of the largest accounting firms, all that high-volume, low-margin compliance work done by thousands of junior employees, is being replaced by algorithms. And the Big Four firms are driving this change, not resisting it.
They're restructuring their entire business model. The Big Four, PwC, Deloitte, EY, KPMG, they are not waiting to be displaced. They are causing the displacement by slashing their graduate intakes. KPMG had the steepest reduction, down 29% in its graduate hiring from 2022 to 2024, and PwC, explicitly cited generative AI when they cut 200 entry-level jobs, noting that the AI can do the duties that were traditionally given to interns.
That is the sound of an entire industry flipping its recruiting switch from high volume to strategic efficiency.
And they're doing it using these advanced AI structures. They're deploying specialized agentic AI platforms. Now, this is a key concept we need to define. Agentic AI refers to systems where you have multiple specialized independent AI programs agents that are designed to interact with each other to achieve a complex goal. It's like a team of human workers.
A virtual team of interns, basically, operating at scale.
Exactly. EY launched their EY AI agentic platform specifically for global tax compliance. It has over 150 specialized tax agents that manage data ingestion, compliance checks, risk flagging, all handing tasks off to each other. KPMG launched Workbench for audit orchestration, which uses similar agents. These systems let the humans shift entirely from execution to supervision and advisory.
So the survival path for the accountant is clear. Get out of compliance execution and into advisory supervision. What are those protected roles?
They all rely on judgment and relationships. First, strategic advisory. This is helping clients optimize their tax strategy, plan for growth, advise on mergers. You're moving from recording history to planning the future. Second, forensic accounting, fraud investigation, litigation support. This is detective work. It requires critical thinking, interviewing skills, complex judgment about human motivation, not just pattern matching. And third, industry specialization, becoming the go-to expert for a very specific, nuanced domain like healthcare practice financials or specialized construction tax codes. The CPA gives you permission, but the industry expertise gives you genuine protection.
So the takeaway for new accountants is that they have to tackle strategic tasks much earlier. They have to have strong critical thinking to vet the AI's output because junk in, junk out, and cultivate amazing interpersonal skills. The relationship is now the core value.
They can't rely on the sheer volume of compliance work to climb the ladder anymore. The license still matters for credibility, but the true economic value is now entirely in judgment and advisory.
This brings us to the final, and I think the most crucial section of this deep dive. We've laid out the risks across 3 major professions, but the only person who can restructure your career to survive is you. It's time for the actionable framework.
Section 5, the personal risk assessment. This exercise is designed to force a ruthless self-assessment and help you restructure yourself up the value chain starting this month.
We're going to walk you through 5 concrete steps. Step 1, list your daily tasks.
And don't write down your job description. Write down everything you actually spend time on in a typical week. Be granular. For a lawyer, don't write practice law. Write drafting standard NDAs, answering discovery requests, meeting with a senior partner about case strategy. Get the actual labor down on paper.
Next, step 2, categorize tasks. For each task you listed, you're going to mark it along 3 critical binary dimensions. You have to choose one side for each. Dimension 1, is the task routine or creative? Routine follows a set pattern. Creative requires novel problem solving.
Dimension 2, is the task digital or physical? Digital happens on a screen. Physical involves human interaction or being somewhere in the real world. Dimension 3, is the task predictable or unpredictable? Predictable means you know the outcome before you start. Unpredictable means the process or solution depends on messy, external human variables.
Right, so a routine plus digital plus predictable task for an accountant is monthly bank reconciliation. A creative plus physical plus unpredictable task for a lawyer is closing arguments in front of a jury. This categorization is your professional inventory.
Now for step 3, calculate your risk percentage. Count the tasks you marked as that triple threat. Routine plus digital plus predictable. These are the tasks most susceptible to immediate automation. Calculate what percentage of your total weekly time is spent on these tasks.
This percentage is your professional danger score. Let's run through the interpretation scale so you have some context for what to do next.
If you are spending 70% or more of your time on routine, digital, predictable work, you are in critical danger. You need to restructure your role immediately. That means having conversations with your manager now about shedding these tasks and prioritizing advisory roles. Think of Sarah, a compliance auditor. Her week is 80% just reconciling forms and running standardized checks. Her job is at imminent risk. Her survival plan has to involve rapidly acquiring forensic accounting or strategic advisory skills.
Okay, what if your score is between 50 and 70%?
You're in high danger. You have maybe 3 to 5 years to significantly shift your responsibilities toward that creative, strategic, or relationship work. The clock is ticking. You have to prove your value lies outside of execution. If you're at 30 to 50%, that's medium danger. The pressure is coming, but you have time to start building skills in those protected areas now. And if you're under 30%, you're relatively safer. But you have to remember that the performance bar is still rising for everyone. Even if you're safe, you need to be using AI to amplify your strategic output.
Step 4. Identify your strategic task. Look at your list and find that one task that is creative, unpredictable, or requires that high-stakes human judgment. This is the task that will be protected.
For the data scientist, it might be defining the next generation of business critical metrics. For the lawyer, client counseling on risk tolerance. This becomes your singular focus.
And finally, step 5. This month's commitment, the 20% rule. You need to carve out and spend 20% of your time this month actively developing skills in that one strategic area, even if it means delegating routine work to an AI or being slightly less efficient on other things.
That 20% allocation is non-negotiable. If you spend 20% of your time every single month restructuring your job away from routine work and toward judgment and relationships, you are actively surviving AI. And the most important part, document the results. Keep detailed notes on the complex problems you solved, the insights you delivered, the key relationships you built. This becomes your portfolio. It's the evidence that you've moved beyond execution and into advisory.
Don't wait for your company to hand you a new job description. Restructure yourself up the value chain starting this month. The traditional knowledge worker career path is obsolete. Credentials only provide the permit, judgment, relationships, and strategy provide the protection.
And if we connect this survival framework back to the bigger picture, you have to remember the duality of this revolution. While 85 million jobs are estimated to be displaced globally by 2025, and that includes many of these knowledge worker roles, 97 million new roles are projected to be created. In areas like AI development, cybersecurity, analytics, and entirely new advisory functions, the challenge is crossing that chasm of displacement, moving from the shrinking tasks to the emerging ones.
That is the core theme of Surviving AI with Carlo Thompson. Your professional stability in 5 years depends entirely on the choices you make this month in assessing and restructuring your value.
Next time, we shift our focus entirely. We're going to explore those 97 million new roles and the critical decision that every professional is now facing. Business ownership versus employment. We're going to explore Episode 5, The Entrepreneurship Paradox, why AI is creating the biggest business boom in history.
Join us next time for the deep dive.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time on Surviving AI.